Reflect on this story from Matthew. 40 days after the birth of their son, Mary and Joseph take one of their rare trips to the temple in Jerusalem to fulfill their responsibility to complete Mary's ritual purification after childbirth and to perform the redemption of the firstborn, both in obedience to the Torah, the law of Moses. Some of you will remember when mothers in our church had to go for ritual purification, called churching of women, after the birth of their children. Mary and Joseph meet two older people in the temple. First, Simeon, who rejoices with the words, "My eyes have seen your salvation, which you have prepared in the presence of all peoples, a light for the revelation to the Gentiles and for glory to your people Israel." And then to Anna, who begins to praise God and to speak about the child to all who were looking for the redemption of Israel. Simeon blesses the three of them and then goes on to say to Mary, "This child is destined for the fall and the rising of many in Israel, and to be a sign that will be opposed, so that the inner thoughts of many will be revealed, and a sword will pierce your own soul too." And a sword will pierce your own soul too. Knowing how my own mother would take these words, I expect that Mary's first concern would not be about her own anticipated suffering, but that her son would have to suffer. On another visit to the temple to celebrate Passover, when Jesus was 12 years old, Jesus remains behind and speaks with the teachers with authority. And then he says these mysterious words to his parents. "Did you not know that I had to be in my Father's house?" This time the writer tells us that the three returned home and that his mother treasured all these things in her heart. Jesus grew in wisdom and in years. Despite being deeply worried by these temple experiences, Mary went on faithfully believing in her God, raising her son to know and trust this God. The moment Mary must have dreaded all her life came when her son was condemned unjustly and crucified on the cross. While many of his followers deserted him at this point, according to John's Gospel, 4 remained at the foot of the cross to be with Jesus in his last moments. Mary was there with her sister Mary, the wife of Cleopas, Mary Magdalene, and John. Jesus had one more task to do before he died, the task of a son who could not leave his mother by herself. The poignancy of the words is unforgettable. When Jesus saw his mother and the disciple whom he loved standing beside her, he said to his mother, "Woman, here is your son." Then he said to the disciple, "Here is your mother." And from that hour, the disciple took her into his own home. Then, the Gospel writer says, after this, Jesus knew that all was now finished. With his mother cared for, Jesus was able to complete his ministry on this earth. In a story in Luke's Gospel, we will again meet Mary's sister and her husband Cleopas after Jesus' death, when, in deep sorrow, they begin their journey home to Emmaus. They are joined by Jesus, although they do not recognize him until he breaks bread with them in their home. Then they say, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" These words of hearts burning with the words of Jesus are a lovely echo of Mary's treasuring all these things in her heart through her whole lifetime. What stands out as a balance for all this sadness and pain are the wonder and power of relationships. Jesus and his mother, Mary and her sister, Jesus and Mary Magdalene, Jesus and John, John and Mary, Mary, Cleopas, and Jesus. These relationships remain to support and nourish even in the midst of suffering and death. From his mother, Jesus would have learned how significant such relationships are. Remember the first thing Mary did after the Annunciation. was to go to her cousin Elizabeth because she needed her. And so I ask you, what is the sword that is now piercing your heart? Who holds you in loving care to enable you to bear that sorrow? Whom do you hold as a sword pierces her heart, his heart? How does your heart, pierced by a sword, become a heart burning within you because Emmanuel, God with us, loves you?